I've spent the last 9 months cooking up some of the most devious bosses to be put in a game, with everything from a party game boss, to a fight with a giant slab of raw meat, to an insanely attractive waffle-shaped man. Boss Up has covered a lot of ground. After finishing up the most recent dating sim themed fight, I was left wondering what's next for the game. I started drafting up ideas, including an RPG boss and a fishing minigame boss, but nothing was jumping out to me as the next great addition. Then it struck me. My game is full of Zoomer BS. If I had to describe my game to anyone over the age of 25, their brain would jump out of their skull and exit the nearest open window. I need something for the old heads. To solve this problem, I decided that I was going to remake the world's first ever boss fight. I started researching the oldest bosses in video games. I looked through the 80s. Bowser, Donkey Kong, this weird red and blue ninja. It turns out I was looking in the wrong decade. If you want to fight gaming's first boss, you're going to have to go all the way back to 1974. Gary Weisenhunt and Ray Wood were students at Southern Illinois University. These boys liked programming, and Dungeons & Dragons too, because of course they did. They had access to the school's Play-Doh computer. This thing could write code in the fancy new Tutor language, capable of gorgeous 1-bit graphics. So the nerds did what nerds do, and programmed a computer version of D&D. Simply called D&D, the game featured impressive dungeon crawling gameplay for the time, and even had some combat and progression. The game's most historic innovation, however, was the concept of a boss.
But then that led on to the discussion of what does it mean to win a game? What's so important about winning a game? Because if you have one of these games where all you're doing is collecting gold, well, you just go out, and then you go back in, you can get more gold and have a bigger high score. So that's when we came out with this idea of we're going to end the game. So a person's going to finish the thing, it's going to be over. And if you're going to have a finish to the game, you need to have some kind of something's got to happen at the end. So at that point we came up with the idea, well, to prove that they've actually been through the entire dungeon, we're going to put something at the very end, which is going to be, we called it the orb, and it could have been anything. We're going to have the orb there, and then we're going to have a huge battle, a climactic battle between the golden dragon who guarded the orb.
Golden dragon, yes, that was the monster. Yeah.
And all of its minions against that was going to fight, and that would be the climactic battle. And after that, then you'd go out to the maze, and then the game would be over. You'd save it, and and your high score would be saved forever, and you'd be retired to the Elysian Fields.
After hours of grueling, difficult RPG gameplay, players would encounter the first ever video game boss fight. What did you expect? It was the 70s. I'm impressed they managed to draw this thing on the screen. I mean, have you ever tried programming in Tutor? Alright, enough of the history lesson. I promised you guys a remake of this fight, and a remake is what you're gonna get. First things first, I opened up Sprite to start drawing the background for this fight. I know that might sound strange. Shouldn't I program the fight first, or draw the dragon maybe? Well, normally I would do that. This time though, I had a very specific vibe in mind that I wanted to capture, and the background was the perfect place to start. As you can see, I'm limiting myself to just one color, just like the original game. I want players to feel the history of this boss as they fight it, so I sampled the original orange tone and started drawing on a black canvas. I used line thickness and textures to create the illusion of depth, making this background appear more complex by allowing the viewer to fill in the gaps in detail with their brain. After an hour or so of detailing, I called it done and imported the background into GameMaker Studio. Looking pretty nice. Hey, what's going on with Roger? Why is he so orange and black? The answer is simple. I employed black magic to replace black pixels in Roger's outline with orange pixels, and every other pixel was replaced with black to fill in the spray. This magic technique is called a shader, and I'm a complete moron when it comes to using them. I spent an embarrassing amount of time getting this to work, but it's in now and it's really cool. It even recolors the weapon that you bring into the fight. I decided to leave the UI unchanged as I wanted the non-diegetic elements to remain consistent throughout the game. Alright, back to the art program, Art Slave. Now I'm working on the design for the dragon itself. Sticking to my monochrome color palette and a relatively small canvas size, this design is intended to reflect how the dragon looked back in 1974. With some tweaks to fit a little bit more in the Boss Up art style, this bad boy is looking adorable. I mean, intimidating and strong, and very scary. That's right, you're such a good scary dragon, yes you are. Oh yes you are. Anyways, now that that's done, let's get our dragon up and running in game. Now that he's in, I started giving him a basic selection of attacks. This arcing shot uses a for loop to create a bunch of fireballs, and then shoot them out at the player. The dragon chases you down, simply by lerping his current X and Y coordinates to the players. For the next attack, the dragon shoots a cone of fireballs around the player. If you don't carefully fly in the middle of the attacks, you might get caught in one of the streams, so look out. Finally, to break up all of the chasing, the dragon flies up to the center of the screen and rapidly fires shots in the player's direction. I made each phase of the fight last for 500 frames, giving it a snappy pace and not allowing you to get bored of each of these simple attacks. And there is a reason that it's so simple. This is only the first phase of the fight. For this phase, I wanted to go big, and really showcase how boss design has evolved over the years. For that reason, this dragon is now the biggest sprite in all of Boss Up, at a whopping 271 by 221 pixels. That might not sound like much, but since our resolution is 480 by 270, scaled up to 1080p, this actually means the boss takes up 46% of the entire screen. I drew his body in segments, as I planned on animating the boss piece by piece in-game, something I had never attempted before. I drew these balls that I would use to connect the limbs to the body, and once I was happy with how each segment was looking, I hopped over to GameMaker to start working on the animations. I started off by using placeholder assets to get the neck and limb segments drawing properly. I created a straight line of sprites from the head segment to the body segment, using a for loop to place them at equal lengths apart along the line, and then I added a sine wave to the function's Y coordinate to give the neck a little sag. Once I was happy with that, I copied over the code for the legs and gave them a bigger sag to imitate the dragon's hunched leg posture. After that was finished, I imported all my dragon segment assets and hooked them up to the objects. Now I had the static dragon in the scene, but I wanted to make him move. This process took absolutely forever, so in short, I made the feet move up and down while slowly moving forward one at a time using a series of lerp animations. I then hooked up the head and body to move up and down while the feet were moving. Then finally, I made the dragon and the head move forward along with the feet, stopping all the animation once the dragon fully made it into frame. And here's the final result. I honestly think this is the coolest thing I've ever put in a game. It's not a fight without some attacks though, so let's get started on those. I wanted this phase to expand on the ideas of the first, so I started by evolving the arcing shot from the first phase to shoot around the entire screen. This attack is now about moving carefully to stay in between the lines of fire, whilst being absolutely intimidated by the sheer volume of projectiles. Next, I gave the dragon a giant laser, because every boss fight needs a giant laser. I reused some of the code from the Mr. Smiles fight I made last May, and tweaked it so that the dragon would shoot the laser from his gaping maw, letting the player either roll through the laser or circle around the back of the dragon to dodge the attack. Finally, I programmed the scariest attack of the fight. The dragon begins to shoot angled shots at the player, but that's not all. He lifts up his foot and attempts to stomp you. I wanted to make use of each of the limbs that I programmed in this fight, so I made sure to give this attack that extra flair by combining fire shots and big stomps. It will take quite a bit of skill to survive these flashy attacks. So that's it for the dragon fight. By the way, if you watched this far, what should we call him? He doesn't seem to have a name in the original game, so leave a comment if you have any ideas. Anyways, I'll leave you guys with a recording of the fight so you can watch the epic battle in full. I hope you enjoyed this new style of devlog where I go a little bit more in depth. I had a lot of fun doing the research to make this video, so I'd love it if you left a like and subscription, because this was a really big project. Please enjoy the fight and stay tuned for the next Boss Up devlog.